Hey guys, so I recently went to the Halo Outpost Convention on Friday. It's a convention that's entirely dedicated to all things Halo. Replicas of characters, weapons, and even the rings are visible there. If you haven't heard by now, many of the people who went to the convention had quite a few things to say about it, many of them not good things. Here's a few of the things that I experienced at the convention and what I thought about the first day, Friday. So the convention was held in Orlando, Florida. Friday was the first day of the convention and there wasn't a lot of information about how to pick up tickets if ordered online. Once we parked and made our way to the convention center, there were several people hanging around the entrance and upper floors trying to find out where in the convention center Outpost was even being held. There weren't any signs or personnel to tell us where to go. We practically had to explore the convention center until we found where the rest of the people were actually congregating. The actual entrance to the area where Outpost was being held was literally on the other side of the convention center, nowhere near the parking lot where we entered from. The convention also started later, which meant that we had less time to actually do any of the things that we wanted. Badge pickup was at 11 a.m., but we couldn't enter until 1 p.m., with the exception of the VIP, who I believe was able to enter about an hour early. Once we finally got inside, there were a few interesting attractions to look at. Statues of Master Chief, an Elite, and even a Warthog were at the entrance to the convention. There was also a nice assortment of weapons and replicas to see. There were also actors who helped to explain some of the exhibits and were there to answer any questions people may have had. The staff of the venue, on the other hand, was not so good, but I'll get into that probably later. Once we got past that, there were Pelican simulators, a Covenant escape room, a Halo ring exploration area, and a few other things. Aside from that, though, there wasn't really much else. This unfortunately led to one of the biggest issues that I had at the convention. Of the conventions I've been to, this one probably had some of the fewest people. Probably because we went on a Friday. Even though there weren't a ton of people, there were so few things to do that every attraction had a line. How long? Well, we must have looked around the convention center for about 15 minutes after we entered before waiting in line for the first attraction, the ring experience. We were waiting for about an hour and a half to get inside even the waiting area. After 10 more minutes, we were finally able to get into the area and started hearing about the lore of the rings. The headphones were a little staticky, but for the most part it was nice to hear about some of the lore and have the actors guide you through the experience. The entire experience lasted about 20 minutes. The problem is that even though we were the first people to get there besides the VIP holders, we only got to do one thing after 2 hours of actually being inside the convention. After eating lunch with the very limited options that were given, we headed back in to wait in yet another line for the Covenant escape room. At least I think that is what it was called, since we never actually got into the room. The room only allowed for what seemed like 5 people at a time, and yes, I do mean room. There was only one, which means that you have to wait for the people to get assembled by the staff, sent into the room, solve whatever they have to, leave the room, have someone reset the room, and then the next group is assembled. Who would think this is a good idea? Why have just the one room? The reason we never got into the room is because after another hour and a half of waiting in line, we're only about halfway through the line. 3 hours in line for a 5-minute experience just doesn't seem worth it. By that time, every attraction had giant lines and we decided to check out the very sparse merchandise. The merchandise was crazy expensive and everything had the Outpost emblem on it. I did want something Halo, but I didn't need it branded with Outpost. One of the things that we were excited about was that the voice actors were going to be doing signings. Who? Only the voices of Cortana and Master Chief. This was a huge deal for me and the people that I was with. We wanted to meet the actors behind one of our favorite franchises and hopefully get something signed by them. Especially after missing the first signing because we were an hour and 20 minutes into our wait for the ring experience. After getting there to wait in line an hour and a half early, which I'm only just now realizing is a repeating theme, we realized that the line was already wrapped around the convention floor, behind the merchandise area and lined all the way across on the other side. There was no way we were going to meet the actors and we ended up leaving early. It's a good thing we did too, because apparently the convention operators decided to do a raffle to decide which 60 people, out of the hundreds of people that were probably waiting, would actually get to have something signed. I can't even imagine waiting in line for 3 or more hours to meet someone who was probably the only reason you came, to then get screwed by RNG. This would not begin to describe the feeling. When we decided to leave, we had a less than pleasant experience with the staff of the venue. We were actually told to go out of the opposite end of the food court, where there was a solitary guard passed out in a chair who I had to wake up to ask for directions. He barely took the effort to point at the exit without even getting out of his chair, of course. The exit was actually the maintenance area of the convention center. You know, the part that only the employees are supposed to go through? We were just wandering back there without any signs or indications that we were going the right way. Employees were just passing us by, and we were obviously lost. After finally finding our way to the parking lot, all we had was negative things to say about the experience. So that wrapped up the Friday experience of Halo Outpost, the first official convention at least that I know of. I want to believe that since this was their first time doing the convention, that there were bound to be some shortcomings. The problem is, many of the issues seemed obvious and could have been avoided. Far too few attractions, a handful of food options, overpriced merch, bad staff, little to no instruction or guidance on where to go. It seems like the app you could download for the convention was getting pushed so hard that they forgot to have something more personal for people who don't want to constantly be using their phones. All of that headache was not worth $60 a person. I really feel sorry for the people who purchased the VIP tickets, which were $140 per. That's right, more than 2 times the cost of the standard ticket. Both of these are just for the single day. I really hope that the days following were much better than our initial experience. But if ours was any indication of how the rest turned out, I would definitely recommend not going. Please don't waste your money, and this is coming from a Halo fan who actually likes the lore and wanted this to be a good experience. Okay, that's it for me, guys. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.